It is not that expensive to live the crazy lifestyle that you see online. Everyone's so focused on signing clients, but no one's focused on retaining clients and increasing lifetime value of clients. I would always pay myself the absolute bare minimum out of the business as long as possible. If someone was like, yo, like you lost your audience today, but like you have to start a new software company, I'm building a power dialer. You know, I went from 0 to 100K in 95 days. Like I really cracked the code on some of these short form, little algorithms.
Nothing that you do in your life right now has to take as long as what you say it's going to take.
I know probably like 2 people that can actually get their clients results with a marketing agency. And I know a lot of marketing agency owners. And if you look back of like what it meant to be an entrepreneur, it's like you're solving actual problems. Like you're providing massive value to a marketplace. Like you're not just selling some sort of claim online. I don't think personal brands is going to be enough pretty soon. And on top of that, again, a personal brand is not really a sellable business. If you make no money right now, right? Like whether you're starting a software company, an agency, whatever. The only thing that moves the needle is getting your first customer.
Quick one before we jump into this podcast, do me a solid favor, hit that like button, hit subscribe, and drop a comment below this video. If you're looking to remove images, videos, search results, or fake accounts online, go to contentremoval.com, but don't take my word for it. Here's some music.
Frank, you're a legend. I just saw this. Layla also thinks you're a legend, which in my mind means you're which means you're a double legend in my mind. If you get my wife to think you're a legend, then you're extra cool in my mind. Dude, thank you so much, genuinely. That was such a pain.
And we are back with the podcast. And today I'm coming to you live from Miami, and I'm hyped to do this one today because this one's as much for you guys as it is for my curiosity, because this man here, I know him as No Code Alex Heiden. I'm going to introduce him to you in a minute. But the way I came across Alex was I was on Twitter and I was searching for like seeing what money Twitter was saying about this, that, and the other. And I found out about this thing called no code software and how these people were making money and selling these brands with no code software. And Alex Heiden is the king of that. Welcome to the show, my man.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. I'm really excited for this one.
Mate, I'm happy to have you here, but I just wanted to kind of, before we go into all this no-code software and everything that's going on with the no-code space and what you've been delving into for the last few years, I kind of want to give people a bit of an insight, because obviously you're a young lad that's gone from living in Mississippi, I think, and or another state, and you've gone from that to taking yourself out of the state and earning your first dollars online. Mm-hmm. Can you give me a bit of an insight into like how you found the online world in the first place, and like what you were doing to kind of get, what you're putting in place to kind of make your first dollars online?
Yeah, so I was in Missouri for college at St. Louis University, but even before that, I was living in Ohio, still in high school. And there's this guy that I grew up playing tennis with that I followed on Instagram, and it was in February of like, I don't remember if it was 2018 or 2019, but I think it was 2019. And he put up a story. It was a Shopify screenshot of him putting up like $250K in a month. And I didn't understand at the time either that was like, revenue and who knows what the margins were. But I just saw like 250 grand in a month. And I was like, dude, what are you doing? And he told me, he was like, I'm drop shipping. He like explained the business model to me. I never heard of it. And so that led me starting to go down the online business rabbit hole. And I was like, well, if this guy did 250K in a month drop shipping, like why can't I? And so I tried to start off in drop shipping. I had no success with it ever. In fact, I lost a lot of money. But it still led me into discovering what online business is and the whole online money thing. And eventually someone was like, you just bought all these courses. Like I bought a bunch of courses to try to learn how to drop ship. And someone was like, you can be a sales rep for one of those and like get a commission. Now I wasn't actually a sales rep for a drop shipping course, but it was like the same stuff. Like a lot of like coaching offers and things of that nature. And it clicked really quickly for me. I was really good at sales. And so I scaled that, and eventually I became a recruiter for online companies. So I would recruit sales reps for them, and they would pay me like $5,000 to place one sales reps in their business. And the problem was it took forever, because the model that we were running is what the traditional recruiters do, where they train up a sales rep and then they place them. But to train up a sales rep, take them from zero to actually being able to sell, it's going to take you 4 to 6 weeks, and then they go into a ramping period. And so a ramping period is just like, you're easing them into it. You're not starting them off with a packed calendar because they still haven't taken sales calls before. So naturally, even though you're trained, you're not going to be the best on your first sales call. You're going to have nerves. You're going to be a little jittery. You're not going to be super comfortable, right? And so all in all, it would probably be 8 to 10 weeks before a sales rep would be fully ramped up. They could take a packed calendar and actually perform. And so I started to realize all these inefficiencies, and I started to hear all these complaints with the sales recruitment model. People were like, you're kind of charging a lot for one sales rep. It's taking a long time. 8 to 12 weeks is a long time to ramp one rep. And, they were also kind of just like, we wish they were experienced. We don't want people that are necessarily trained. We want people that are experienced and just ready to hit the ground running. And so basically they wanted faster, more affordable, more predictable. And so I was brainstorming with a buddy of how I could solve those problems. And he was like, well, you could probably turn this into a hiring platform, self-serve. Yeah. And that would make it faster, more affordable. And then to make it more predictable, just only allow in experienced people. Say, screw training people, stop training people, only take on experienced people that can prove it. And so I was like, I like that idea, but how do I build a hiring platform? I don't have the budget to go pay for that. And he introduced me to no-code tools. He goes, you could probably use Stacker, Airtable, MemberStack, and Zapier, and you could go hack something together yourself and make enough money with that put together version until you can go and pay someone to build something better and just keep rinsing and repeating that process. And so now I was really intrigued. I was like, what do you mean these no-code tools? What is no-code? And he goes, go look at these tools that I just recommended to you. And so basically Airtable is for back-end data. So think of it like Google Sheets. It's honestly very similar to Google Sheets, right? And so you'll create these different tabs for whatever your data set is. And then Stacker was just this front end, user interface where you could build something very simple. Zapier would kind of tie everything together, and we use MemberStack to keep track of payments and memberships, and then Stripe as well to take payments. And so what I ended up doing was I ended up hacking together this really ugly, first iteration. And it was basically the equivalent of a business owner paying for access to a Google Sheet of just it's closer's name, their information, their experience. That was what you would see. And there was multiple rows of that. So they were basically paying for a little bit prettier of an Excel sheet of information. And I started off charging $97 a month just to have access to this little database. And I launched it with a thread. So keep in mind, so that probably cost maybe $100, $200 to put together between those tools, right? So instead of having to put out 10 grand, 20 grand to go pay developers to build something, I did it for $200, right? And so I launched it with a Twitter thread. And I don't have many Twitter followers at this time. But so I read a thread. I'm calling out agency owners, here's how to build a commission-only sales team, something like that. And at the very end, I was DM me Closify if you want more information, if you want to join. And so I wake up the next morning, and I probably have 50 plus DMs of people that are yo, let me try this out. And so we close a bunch of people, and it was only $97 a month at the time, which wasn't a smart pricing model, which we figured out later. But then we just kept iterating. But that was how I got introduced to it all, and it was crazy to me.
So when the pricing model was wrong for you because that 97 wouldn't allow you to advertise it, is that why it was wrong?
A little bit of that part, and also at the start, the business owners that we were working with were at a much smaller caliber than what we ended up working with at the end. There were a lot of people making their first-time sales hires, not making their second, third, fourth, fifth. And so they only needed one sales rep. So there was no reason for them to continue their subscription. They just would pay $97 and dip out. And so we were like, well, this model doesn't make sense. So we kept changing it.
But it just goes to show you with that story how fast you can turn a rudimental idea like that and just kind of, okay, let's put this and this together, bolt it together, and just try it. And you can try 13 of those in a month, and it's not costing you a lot of money because the software will cost you the same price because you just pay subscriptions to it, right?
Right.
So you've got that. So when people that listen to this are thinking, well, that sounds incredibly easy. You've made that sound incredibly easy. I'm sure there's a lot more complexity to that, and we'll go into that. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to people looking for ideas, what should they be looking for? Just problems in the marketplace around what they're currently doing to look for the ideas to build the software in the first place? Or
Sure. So I think that's probably the best way to get ideas is if you're immersed in a market, right? And so, before this, we talked about Iman and his program, right?
Yep.
And so I was inside of his program, and kind of when I mentioned a lot of people were talking about the inefficiencies of sales recruiters, it was because with his program came a WhatsApp group chat, and it was over 100 agency owners in it, right? And so those were the agency owners that I was getting this feedback with that ultimately led to me getting the idea, right? So I was so immersed in that agency space that these problems were just getting spit in my face every single day to where it was so obvious. It was they're sick and tired of the current sales hiring solutions out there. they are dying for something better. Because like when I launched it, the product market fit was so strong that it was so easy to sell because like they were dying for it. So I think the best way is to find a recurring problem in the niche that you're already in. But then there's a lot of people that might be watching this that they're like, I'm not really that into one niche. I'm kind of just like looking to get into it, but maybe it's their first business or, I have no idea what their scenario is. But if you have like no inspiration, what I like to do is I like to just go look on Acquire. So acquire.com, and I'll go on there and I'll filter to software companies, ideally that are over like 100K a year. And I'll just look and I'll try to find one that's a little bit interesting to me, or maybe that does play into my niche, or maybe one that it's like a great product, but its big bottleneck was marketing, which is my strong suit. But I'll just go on Acquire and I'll look at different softwares for inspiration. Yeah,
and then obviously by doing it from 100K up a year, you're kind of really going to the bottom of the software market, because 100K is not a lot in software, and it kind of shows you all the new things that may have had legs, like you say, but no marketing team behind it, or wrong idea. And maybe you could even perhaps look into acquiring some of these that are already built and for not much money, and then relaunching them yourself, kind of thing.
Absolutely. I mean, I think if you have the budget for it, I think acquiring a business is often the better move. If you actually look at a lot of the richest people in the world, which a thing I'm big on is studying the greats.
Studying the success.
And anything, and business and sports, just great minds, whatever. And if you look at a lot of the richest people in the world, it's exactly what they did, is they actually bought a company and they grew it, and they used their skill set to grow it, or they used their capital to grow it. And so I think if you have the budget for it, I think acquiring a company is a great move.
So I think at this point then, so what you're saying is right, and I think most people that listen to this should do this. Then they should list the niches that they're in, and and then also list by it the problems that they've found in those niches that they believe could be solved by software that could be made relatively quickly. And if they just identified those two sections, they've got something that then they can perhaps take to the next stage. When you talk about building with no code, and obviously you've got some skills and this, that, and everything in the online space, not everyone's got the skills that you've probably got, or probably the aptitude for tech that you have, potentially. So when it comes to a no code software platform, like I think you mentioned like Tailwind and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. There's the ones that I talk about the most, that is like Bubble, Flutter Flow, Softer, Glide. Those are kind of like the most popular as right now, I'd say.
How long do they take to learn to use, if you were being totally honest, from a standing start?
Yeah, so there's like Softer is like super easy to use. Like you can figure out how to use it in a day because it's like so simple. And obviously that comes within the downsides of it's not as scalable, it's not as customizable, right? It's just like, it's still fine for MVPs, but it's not Bubble. And so Bubble is like what my team builds on. It's like what all of my companies have ended up being built on. Bubble, we've been able to build pretty much anything that you would otherwise need code. Like we've been able to build everything. We've not had to move off of Bubble. Now Bubble, I don't know how to build on Bubble, for example. It's pretty technical. From what my dev tells me, is it takes about 2 months for things to start to really click on Bubble.
So even though it's no code, it's still the high end thought process of no code to be able to implement.
Yes.
So it still takes someone on Bubble, even though that's probably the best platform out of all the ones that you've mentioned to build on. That's going to take the longest period of time for someone to go right from 0 to 1. That's going to take you the longest time.
Yes, it's going to take the longest. It's not to say that some people just obviously have like a quicker learning ability and they're a little bit more technical and they have like a little bit of like that like logical brain where like they might be able to pick it up a little faster. But from what I've heard from my developer, on average, it takes people about 2 months for it to click.
I love it. This is what I kind of think will help the audience a lot, and it'll help me get my head around it too. Let's look at. I just want a few examples of how people can implement it. So could you give me an example of how like an e-commerce brand could implement no code and how they could build something for their clients, and an example of like a service-based business that sells online services or bricks and mortar services as well. Could you give me a couple of those examples?
Yeah, this is super easy. And so e-commerce, for example, this is actually something that we're doing right now, and a lot of people are selling as a service. So I know a lot of people in the e-commerce game that they have virtual assistants for customer support, right? And from what they've told me, they'll pay their virtual assistants anywhere from like $500 to $800 a month to do customer support. Does that sound like pretty on par with like?
Yeah, 100%.
Right. And so, and they're like good at handling customer support, but it's not anything that's like, it's not a high level task, right?
It's not rocket science.
So what AI is able to do right now is replace a lot of tasks like that, right? Like AI cannot replace me as a marketer yet, but it can replace a lot of things like customer support. So what you can do as an e-commerce owner, you can do this without needing to know how to code, is you can take basically a data set. So there's called prompts and completions, right? So a prompt would be like a customer support inquiry, and the completion would be how your virtual assistant handled it, right? And so if you get enough rows of data on that, all you have to do is you can fine tune a model, which is basically just like teaching a GPT model like off that data set. And then you can turn it into a chat bot, and you can actually create a customer support bot without needing to know how to code that's going to do the exact same thing, and it's going to run for a fraction of the cost of your virtual assistant.
And you could perhaps go from 4 to 5 virtual assistants down to one that overlooks the chatbot, which takes away 80% of your workload.
Exactly.
So, yes, you just hit the nail on the head there, because that's a great example of how an e-commerce brand could use it. A lot of the people that listen probably are people listening now that have a bricks and mortar brand. They're they might have a carpentry company that employs 30 carpenters, but they want to move into the online space. That's why they're listening to podcasts like this. They're trying to segue, but how can they use their current business and the problems within it to kind of use no code to build within it and then step out into the online space?
Yeah, so for a lot of service-based business, like a super easy example is one that like there's templates for it. You can have one up and running very quickly, is customer portals, right? So a lot of people in their service-based business, they have really poor communication with their clients, with their customers, right? Whether like if it's online, they might be using Slack. If it's in person, or like, maybe they're still using email with their customers and clients, and they can actually make a customer portal to centralize all communications and have a much better customer experience. And then you can actually even use that for upsells and things of that nature. So that's a really popular use case. There's a lot of people are building, like especially like marketing agencies right now. It's a very big thing. It's like a lot of them are creating customer portals where they can log in, and instead of having to like have an account manager in Slack saying, hey, here's what we're working on this week, here's how your campaign is doing, all they have to do is sign into their portal and they get daily updates. So like that's a really big thing. That's something that we're building for our internal agency. So we have like a no-code development agency as we're building, instead of having to, send in Slack, hey, like we're working on design today, hey, we're starting back-end development today. They can just log in and they can see for themselves.
See, this is something I was watching your, obviously I've been watching your YouTube videos, trying to go down the rabbit hole, trying to get this stuff. And I was sat there the other day and I was watching through your tutorial on no code, and I saw you go into there and show that there's all these frameworks. I was thinking I've got to build from scratch, right? Because I was looking at all your bitty videos, but then I looked at the full tutorial. And you showed in the portal that in this particular software that you're looking at, you could just pick these templates. Yep. And I realized in that moment, because I was thinking about building this login stuff for contentremoval.com and everything that we do, because it would just be easier to handle all the inquiries in there than what we're doing, and the way it's structured. Plus, it would take out staff that I don't need anymore. And basically, I realized that all these portals that all these agencies were using were literally like white label front ends that they just slapped their logo on and then changed a few of the variables inside, and then you got your client portal. I think every business should have a client portal after I watched that video. Of
course. And another little example even is, say you do run like a more old school business. Say you're like a window and like some sort of home service business, right? And you're thinking, how can I use tech? And because most of these like old school business, they don't use any tech right now, right? Like they know they don't have a CRM, like they got nothing. And I've had a lot of people even inquire. They're like, yo, I want to build something for like event planners. I want to build something for roofers, window installers. Because like my dad owns a company or my friend does, and they have zero tech. And they're running super inefficient, right? Or like the tech that is out there, like they don't want to use Salesforce. They don't want to use, Pipedrive, because these CRMs they're massive CRM companies that are expensive and they aren't tailored to just like a small local business. And so instead of having to go pay a bunch of money for a popular big CRM, they can just build their own. They can customize it to their, small niche, and they can just use it for their own internal use case. Like you don't even have to, like no code isn't all about even building stuff to sell as a service to other people. Another big use case is using it to build internal solutions for your own business, so that way you don't have to go pay a bunch of money somewhere else, right?
Yeah, I think you just hit the nail again on the head there, because like when you start, what most people don't realize when you start an online business is you get you have to get loads of these software. You get the email service provider, and then when you get past 10,000 emails, that goes from $49 a month to $300, $349 a month. And it's like your CRM, when your CRM hits like 5,000 people, that goes from being $99 a month to $599 a month, and it just keeps infinitely scaling. And that's why software is such a beautiful business model for people to get into. But the problem is that you as a business owner, you're paying all these subscriptions to all these things, and what you're essentially saying is you can just bring all that into this online portal that you build for your business. So the best thing then that most people could build right now is to use one of these templates to build their internal portal for their company, and then whilst they're learning that, whether that's bricks or mortar, whether that's e-com, whether that's whatever business you're in, just build that for that. And then you're learning with inside that what you can do, essentially.
Yes. I mean, I think that's one of the best things you can do. And again, I completely agree with what you said of every business should have a customer portal, because it has such a big increase on the user experience, and it makes it such like a better relationship. And I think that's something that's super overlooked now, because I've talked about this a lot. I think because of like all these like programs that have come out and all these people, and there's all these claims online of like I always talk about like, info products, it's like selling claims, right?
Yep.
And so there's all these people that are like, get your first client in 90 days, like add your first client in 30 days, whatever it is. So everyone's so focused on signing clients, but no one's focused on retaining clients and increasing lifetime value of clients. And so this is one of those things that you can do that really sets yourself apart from other businesses, is when you focus on improving their experience, and in doing so, you actually get more lifetime value out of them. And so then you keep customers longer, and now you can pay more to acquire more customers.
When I first started my business in 2017, I didn't realize this, but it was about mid 2018, I cottoned onto the fact of, hang on a minute, if you can just keep selling to the same clients if you provide a good service. And most people don't. Most people are always out there trying to market, get more customers, and keep replacing what they're losing because they're giving a bad service.
Yeah.
And it's so much cheaper in the long run when you've acquired that first customer, just to keep serving them the same stuff or add more services in. So how have you seen people build out the minimum viable and then scale the revenue within inside that minimum viable product when it comes to software?
Yeah. So it also depends on like what stage of your journey you're at, because say you're someone like me now, like I'm not going to go and build my MVP on software anymore. I'm just going to go straight to bubble, because then I know I'll never have to move off of it. Right. But if you're in a position where you're not able to do that yet, and you are going to start on software, you're going to scrap something together on, Stacker and Airtable and MemberStack like I did originally, you need to solve the core like value component that they're looking for. So like with Closify, I mentioned they were annoyed that, it took so long, that it was so expensive, and that, the reps like were trained but weren't experienced. And so I was like, this is all I need to solve, is those problems. I don't have to make it pretty. It doesn't have to have dark mode. It doesn't have to have all the other features that we added on later on, like being able to interview people through the platform, hire through the platform, pay out through the platform, upload training materials into the platform. All of those things came later. Yeah. Because the first iteration, all you were doing is solving the core problems, and you were validating the idea. You're getting your first users, and you're interviewing every single user, figuring out what they like, what they don't like, what they want next, and you're going to iterate off of that feedback. But we need to be able to afford to iterate on that feedback. Unless you're just going to continue to go out of pocket. But if you're trying to really scrap it together and you're really trying to bootstrap it like I did, you've got to get customers, get some money in the door, and then put it straight back into development. And that is the one interesting thing about software that I think a lot of people need to understand if they're going to get into it, is I look at it like a retirement account. You should not get into software with the idea of like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be cash flowing so much money. Like I'm going to go get myself that nice car, like that nice apartment. Like I would always pay myself the absolute bare minimum out of, the business as long as possible. And like I said, think of it like a retirement account, keep as much money in it, keep as much money in it. And then like one day, like when you exit it, like that's when you can have your payday. But I think it's really important that people understand that when they're thinking about getting into software, because you're bootstrapping, all that money is going to go back into research and development.
I think that applies to every business that anyone's running. I think you just got to keep putting into it and paying into it and playing that long game. you're playing tennis, you're playing a set. You're not, to win the match eventually. And the match winning being, okay, I exit this company, I make a bunch of money, and I make the multiple on the exit.
Right.
You can still take out a nice, sizable wage for yourself along the way that's not exuberant. But essentially what you're saying is, don't go and take out Lambo money.
Of course.
If it starts making that kind of money, don't go pulling Lambo money out of it every month. You want to put that into redeveloping it so that becomes a better piece of software, so that you can raise the multiple. What kind of multiple with these things that are made on Bubble that you've seen? And obviously Bubble's the best platform to build it on, guys, if you're going to build it. But when they build them on Bubble, what kind of multiples have you seen from, not yourself, but other people in your niche get when they exit a Bubble application made software? So
it's a super interesting question, because it's like one that I get a lot, and it's kind of like a myth that a lot of people will say of like, there's no way that, a no code app can sell for a same or similar multiple as something built with code. And it's not true. And this is because of the tech moat has diminished, right? Like there's no such thing as a tech moat anymore, really, because still to build on Bubble, like you can still spend tens of thousands of dollars building on Bubble, and you probably will over the course of like, you might pay 10 grand for the MVP, and then by the time 2 years goes by, you might be 50, 60, 70 grand deep in development, right? Which is not that much less than if you build most things on code. And so whether you spend 30 grand on Bubble or like say 70 grand on code, it's not that much of a difference. The moat now is in actually having users and the ability to, iterate on that feedback. And so with that being said, the multiples are about the same, and the multiples have come down from 2021 era when they were just absolutely ludicrous.
Like 20x multiples.
Yeah. But I'm still seeing 5-6x on annual profit as like a pretty common multiple. And there's obviously a lot of other factors. Like I can tell you, people care, like what matters the most is your churn, right? Like if you have a higher churn, you're not going to get a good multiple. And the other thing is they just want to see a lot of users, right? Because say, you have 200 users and churn is low, but you have to keep in mind that if 10 people churn, that's a decent chunk.
High percentage, yeah.
Right. Whereas if you have 1,000 users and 10 people churn, you don't care. So you want to go for a software where you can get a lot of users on it as well.
And when you're building on these no code platforms, is there a sweet spot in terms of the fee that you charge the users? So is this kind of applicable for products that you charge users, say, between $49 a month and $250 a month? Or can you build things like, the Alex Becker model where he's got Hyros and he charges thousands of dollars per year to high-end software that may or may not be built no code, we don't know. But what I'm saying is, can you run that kind of software company on it as well and do those kind of things?
Yeah, so it's totally dependent on what type of problems you're solving and what you're trying to achieve between like how much you're going to charge, right? Like, and it's also like if you're going B2C, like you're not going to be, business to consumer, you're not going to be charging much money. Like, there's like a lot of these like little spin up AI softwares right now to like AI to do students' homeworks, right?
Yeah.
It's like a cool thing. It's trendy. You can get a lot of users on it, but they're not going to pay more than like $10 a month because they're college and high school students. You know what I mean? And like you said, Becker, honestly, I do still believe that B2B software is probably one of the
best.
It's probably the best way to like make significant money, because like you said, if you can get people to pay thousands of dollars per month for your software, like that's really nice because you get cash in the door a lot faster to go back into research and development. And then it scales so easily. You can build the sales team very easily. Which is all things that I'm very familiar with. So I always want to be able to build a sales team for my products. And the reason that he was obviously able to charge so much is because it made business owners so much more money, right? And so he was just basically taking a percentage of the extra that he was making them in a sense.
Yeah, and I loved the reason why I study him specifically as an entrepreneur is one, because I think he's a phenomenal entrepreneur, but two, because I just love the way he picks the niche. Because he's very particular about the niche he picks, and it's always a highly like you say, the results that he's given the client on the front end are massively valuable, and because of that, he's always got a company that can charge $2 or $3 grand for when they sign it per month.
Yeah,
and the beauty of that is the fact of what he was saying is that he can now spend about more than any other competitor, because he can spend he can spend like 30 grand up front to acquire a customer. Not that
Yeah.
he's going to spend that much, but he could spend 30 grand to acquire a customer because he knows after 12 months that customer's paid off.
Yeah.
And he knows the average customer stays for 3 years or 4 years or forever. So if you can afford to spend 30 grand to acquire your first customer because you know you've got the back end that works for that, you've got unlimited scale, which is what most people don't realize in software, because they go and build the $49 tool.
Yeah.
But then they're competing with someone like that's got a bit more budget, maybe like a Neil Patel in SEO. He's got a bit more budget, and he can just absolutely wipe you because he can afford to wait longer before the dollars turn over.
Yeah.
So like, is there a bit of a sweet spot with that, from your opinion, where you can kind of like marry those two together so you can get over that?
So I always like to say, unless you have a massive audience, I don't like anything under $50 a month, because if you have $50 a month and you at least have, like, say they stay for at least 6 months on average, at least you still have like $300 average LTV, which is not bad. Like, it's not amazing, but it's not bad. Like, I think you can get away with that. At least you can make a very decent company that has a $300 LTV. It'll be hard to acquire customers profitably on ads at that LTV, but it's possible, right? What I really like is I love like per seat based pricing. I love usage based pricing, and I love now enterprise type of pricing. I'll give you an example for each of them. So per seat based pricing, if I like if someone was like, yo, like you lost your audience today, but like you have to start a new software company, I'm building a power dialer. And the reason is the one that I used to use sucked. I hated it. But it was like, I want to say they were like $50 a month per user that you have using the power dialer. So we had a team of cold callers that were cold calling on our behalf. I want to say we had 10 of them, I want to say. And I think it was like $50 a month each. So we were paying them like $500 a month then, right? And they also lock you in like a year-long contract. It adds up.
Predictable revenue. You add that, if this company is successful, that they're adding more seats to it.
Yep.
CRMs do this all the time.
Exactly.
$49 for the basic CRM, or one to two seats, and then as soon as you start getting past 5 seats on a CRM, it's like off to the moon.
Yep. So I love per seat based pricing like that. I love usage based. So now there's like, this is really relevant with like softwares that are built off of like OpenAI. Like, say you do fine tune a model for whatever, and you sell that as a service, you can build them. You can do a flat rate still. You can do it's like $20 a month plus usage. So as much as they use their model, they're going to get charged, and you basically upcharge, whatever OpenAI charges per token, and you basically, make a margin on that. And so if you build something really cool that people use a lot, then you're going to get a really, really great monthly recurring revenue from that. And the last one is just like enterprise type of pricing, where you can target big corporations and, they're just going to pay you thousands of bucks per month. Another good one here is just like some of these no-code builders. Like, there's certain no-code builders that they're approaching these enterprise level companies to build internal software for them and host it on their no-code builder, and they're getting thousands of dollars a month that way. So you can land some really big enterprise level contracts doing it that way. So it's not like, hey, like build a software on our platform and go sell it to other people. It's like there are these giant companies that need internal software built, and they're hosting it on their platform, and they're getting thousands of dollars a month for that.
I suppose another thing you could do is, once you say you're a carpentry firm, and let's just pick bricks and mortar for instance, and you build the perfect CRM for the 50 to 100 person carpentry firm, and then that every other carpentry firm in the world would make more money if you sold this to them, you could just literally copy and white label that code into other people's businesses and charge 30-40 grand a pop to do it. Because if I can prove that I can save you hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost time per year from using my CRM, am I going to pay you $20,000 just to copy and paste it into my business? Of course I am.
Right.
And that's probably another good way of making a lot of money really fast as well, by refining it with inside your business and then copy and pasting it into other people's business.
Yep. Yeah, that's even like that even goes beyond kind of just like software, but there's a lot of like a big thing now is like automations as a service, right? Figuring out automations that make your business more money or save you more time, and just selling that automation to other companies. That's a big thing right now too.
And how many of these softwares that we see right now, that, because obviously AI is the buzzword, everyone's got XYZ.ai, and they're all front claiming that it's all AI run. Is that simply then 80% of the tools that we see now online that are calling AI? Is it just literally like Chat GPT plugged in the back end, tail into like a Tailwind data sheet with a no code front end? Is that kind of what I'm looking at?
Yeah, that's what most of these AI softwares are. They're just like Chat GPT wrappers, basically, or they might be a fine tuned model, but they're super simple, and a lot of them, they just have like somewhat viral potential. Like, if you're good at content marketing or you hire a bunch of creators, which is like a whole nother rant. Like, I think like the future of like marketing in general is having a team of creators under your brand. But that's a totally different rant.
Well, let's go into that, because I'm interested in where you think the world's going, because are you saying then that everything now is going to be creator led when it comes to bringing down the cost of acquiring a customer? You need to be a brand with lots of creators on your front end, rather than a brand that just goes out and creates the marketing and markets it themselves. I
think so. And so I'll give you a good example is I think a lot of these personal brands are not going to be enough pretty soon. And so basically, I have like my development agency, right? And it's called No Code, No Problem. But right now, and let's say I think a lot of these companies that aren't sellable right now are going to become sellable. Like right now, I wouldn't call it a sellable business, right? Because it's very tied to like my Instagram account, my YouTube, whatever. I wouldn't call it sellable. It's basically like people don't know the name's No Code, No Problem. They just know me, right?
Yep.
I think the future is your brand is No Code, No Problem. And then underneath your brand is a bunch of creators. And so
not just No Code Alex, but No Code Jeff, No Code Sally, you know?
Exactly. And that's kind of the direction that I'm heading in. Is I'm going to hire a bunch of creators. I'm going to give them standard operating procedures on how to make content. And particularly, like, I'm going to hire people that are in this, like, actually in this space, like not random Joe off the street. Hey, do you want to come talk about no code? People that are actually passionate about no code, people that understand it, but I'm going to teach them how to make engaging content. And I think the future is there's an overarching brand. Another like great example is I wouldn't be surprised if like Alex Hormozy. People do know acquisition.com, but they probably know Alex Hormozy a little bit better still.
Yep.
I think it would be a really good play for him to like accomplish his goal that he just talked about of like making business education free, is for him to go hire a bunch of creators to talk about and make content about acquisition.com and how it is the hub for free business education, right? Because then it's like, right now, it's just like if you know Alex Hormozy, you know acquisition.com. But I think there's where I think the future is heading is where someone can basically hear about acquisition.com without knowing who Alex Hormozy is. Yeah. Right? Like, I want someone to hear about my no-code development agency without knowing who I am. I want people to hear about my software company without knowing who I am. They just heard it from another creator that's under my brand. I think that's the future of where we're going. I don't think personal brands is going to be enough pretty soon. And on top of that, again, a personal brand is not really a sellable business. If you remove the one singular person out of the brand, I think it becomes a sellable business.
Yeah, I was thinking about this the other day when it comes to like Mr. Beast and his YouTube channels and everything that he's got going on. I understand that he's got a lot of brands that are built off the back of his name, like Beast Burgers and all that stuff. And I understand that his channels are very viable with his content. But let's just say, I saw it with what was that? There's a brand, Barstool Sports. I saw it with Barstool Sports. It got sold for 500 million, right? The same way that they're saying Mr. Beast's content could be sold for 10 billion plus, right? It got sold for 500 million.
Yeah.
That brand could not scale it and could not get the value out of it. Plus, it left them wide open because of the type of content that they're producing to get investigated for other stuff. So they had to sell it back to the guy that they just paid 500 million to. Literally a year later, they sold it back for $1, and I was reading through the stipulation of the agreement when they sold it back. They sold it back for $1, and then they get 30% of the sale price when it's sold, when he sells it again.
Which he said he's not going to.
Which he said he's not going to, but he may or may not.
Right.
We don't know that.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, any corporate brand would want to buy all of Mr. Beast's back catalogue for 10 billion right now. But I think inside 2 years from him selling it, he would be able to buy it back for a fraction of that, because they would have murdered it, and it wouldn't have hit the points that for the exact same reasons as what you've just said.
Yep.
Once you've got a person attached to a brand, you can't really sell it without the person. And if you do, you might get a high multiple for it, but you'll end up being able to buy it back for pennies on the dollar anyway, because they won't be able to do anything with it.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, and it's actually funny that you brought up Barstool because it's actually like a model that I kind of like study because I actually think it's really ingenious how they do it because they do the same thing, right? They bring in these creators and they help grow their brands through their brand, you know, the media outlets that they own, the podcasts that they own, you know, the different outlets, whatever.
It's genius.
And, you know, I'm guessing they get a percentage, like, you know, then those creators, they go sell their own merch. They make some money, which is amazing for them, and Barstool gets their cut. And so that's kind of how I'm thinking about running the model. I do think that's kind of like the future of it. It's just having a bunch of creators. You're using like your main core brand, you know, your acquisition.com, your no code, no problem. You help them grow, you get a cut. And the other thing is like acquiring distribution. Like distribution is the moat now. Like whoever can reach the most eyeballs and whoever owns the most eyeballs is like who has the moat right now. And so like a really great example is HubSpot's doing this. HubSpot is...
They're in your videos. I saw it the other day.
Exactly. So like they understand distribution is everything. They're buying podcasts. They're sponsoring YouTube channels. You know, they're doing such a good job because they understand the future is distribution. The future is creators. And so I think you see a lot more people follow HubSpot's, what they're doing and doing the same thing.
And it's a brilliant play for you because by having HubSpot sponsor your videos, not only does it give you revenue for your video, but it's one of the top software platforms there is. Which basically says by you being associated with HubSpot vicariously, it just puts full onus on the fact that you know what you're talking about, and they wouldn't sponsor your video if you didn't know what you're talking about.
Right.
What I've seen you do is, in fact, I've seen you build a phenomenal brand in this no code space, which is what you've done now. And I think when you run this play that you're going to run, where you go, okay, you're just going to take creators that love no code, that are no coding, that are making money out of no code, but they just don't have the marketing ability of you anyway. So they're going to be able to make money by making the videos your way. So they're going to grow on social media, which is going to grow the revenue of their businesses, which is good for them. But they're also going to kick back students and people to you as well.
Exactly.
And it's like a flywheel. You're building a flywheel of content, which allows you to step back eventually when you need to step back out of it.
Exactly. And the biggest thing is like I'm trying to basically take a very similar model to one of my old business partners, still business partner actually, Luca Netz. Really brilliant guy, and he did this. I've
invited him on the podcast actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I didn't even know you were business partners.
Yeah, so he was a partner on Closify, and he still is. He is. I mean, I will listen to that podcast, and I can tell everyone, like, listen. He is. If I had a bet on one person becoming a billionaire, like that I know or that I've even seen online, like it would be him. Like he's that smart. He is like one of the brightest entrepreneurs of our generation. And before he acquired Pudgy, what he did is he had this massive brand in the e-com space. Everyone knew him as like that guy in e-com. And so he basically just got a little piece of all these different e-com companies, whether it's for customer support, whether it's softwares, you know, whether it's a 3PL, and he just had his hands in like a little bit of everything. So I'm kind of trying to do a very similar thing of that. And it's just like, then all my value is I bring the distribution to all these different companies. And so that's what I'm kind of starting to do. Like, you know, I launched a software company 2 weeks ago. I've got my development agency. We're launching a call center for customer support. I have a really big deal in the works that it's probably the biggest play that I can make that I unfortunately can't talk about yet. But like, assuming it goes through in a few weeks, like, It'll be a really big play.
Well, I think we'll talk about that in the next podcast that we do. I think there's so much more to these conversations that we're going to do. Because what I'd like to do with people, I like to get people on, and I like to cover their journey and revisit along the track anyway. So there's plenty of time to talk about that. But one thing I've noticed you've done, which not a lot of people in software do, is you're very good at communicating. You're very good at marketing, and you're not one of the kind of like the kind of computer programmer nerd that you'd think of behind the screen. Do you know what I'm saying? So I want to get into how you've formulated that and how you've built up your resolve around that and being able to network and being able to make these Luca Netz kind of connections that you've made and kind of leverage them.
Sure. So you hit the nail on the head. I'm not technical at all. Like I can build on software, but like I said, I have no clue how to build on Bubble. I've never written a line of code. Like I'm not a technical person. But I found as long as you have one valuable skill set that you can bring to the table, you can get yourself in any room. And as you said, I'm a pretty decent communicator, and I consider myself to probably be best at marketing. And it's been able to get me into a lot of rooms with people that are technical or that have done a lot more than me. And I'll give you an example of this dude reached out to me on Instagram, and it's not Alex Becker because it's the same exit number. But this guy was like, I just sold my software for 110 million. Like, I would love to get on a call with you. And I was kind of like almost like chuckling because I was like, this dude sold his company for 110 mil and he wants to get on a call with me. I was like, I would love to talk to you. You know what I mean? But turns out he had been putting out all these videos. He was trying to build a personal brand.
He didn't know how to do it.
And he couldn't get more than like 300 views. And so he was like, what am I doing wrong? Like, I have all this. And he was like so like blown away. He's like, I have so much credibility. Like, I did all these amazing things. I've been in business for a decade. I had a huge exit. Like, why can't I get any views? And so I'm getting into rooms like that and getting connections like that because of my ability to, I went from 0 to 100K in 95 days. Like, I really cracked the code on some of these short form, little algorithms. And so it's able to get me into rooms I wouldn't otherwise be able to get into.
Well, the thing that, that's how you came on my radar, isn't it? Because I think I saw you first I saw a few of your reels on Instagram that are popping up, and then I saw your tweets and I was following along, and obviously I've been trying to delve into it, and I've been looking at your tutorials and this, that, and the other, and just thinking, okay, cool, there's something that this lad knows that I don't quite get right now, so I'm trying to figure it out. I was trying to figure out, okay, well, he's building on this, and okay, what if I build it on that? Is it saleable? And I'm trying to figure all this out, and I just thought, now I'm at the point where I'm like, right, I've got enough knowledge now to be able to know enough to be able to ask him the questions that I think the world would want to know. Let's get him on the podcast. But that's kind of a great way of how you can introduce yourself to the world, isn't it? Just by creating content. But a lot of people are held back from creating content in the first place. You said that you've grown that much in 95 days. What were some of the key metrics that you kind of put into place from day one? Because you must have had a little bit of a roadmap to attack it like that, to get the growth.
So it's funny because it actually happened on accident. So I didn't really have too much of a desire to grow a personal brand, to be honest. I had this kid that, like, he just random kid that it was like, hey, can I, like, give me some, like, raw footage and I'll clip up stuff for you. This was like, wow, it was like lifestyle stuff. It was dumb. It was like me on a boat, or like me with my friends, just like dumb stuff. It was like very cheesy motivational mashups, and they never got any views, and they especially never converted any followers. But I just let him do it because, like, he wanted to, like, do it for free, and I was like, okay. And all of a sudden, so I moved to Miami at 20, not knowing a ton of people. And so there was this guy that I knew off Twitter that he was moving to Miami, dropped out of college after one semester, moving to Miami at 19, doesn't know a ton of people. And so I was like, I've been there once, like, let me reach out to him and, like, let's get lunch. And so we got lunch, and then, like, I took him on, like, a boat, and he was a really nice kid. And so he kind of, like, then asked me, he's like, yo, do you want to do a podcast? And I agreed. And, like, just, again, I'm trying to be, like, kind of nice, and I like him, so I was like being nice, but like the podcast didn't have any audience behind it.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, let's do it. And we finished the podcast, and then he was like, while you're here, do you want like 3 free short form clips? And I go, sure. And didn't script them, like didn't have a plan. I'm just like 3 free short form clips, and then I'm out of here going back home. And I record the 3, and I post the first one once he edits it. And it goes to like maybe 10 or 15,000 views. And it adds probably like 800 followers the first day. And I'm texting him, and I'm like kind of freaking out. I'm like, dude, I just got like 800 followers. And so I have like, 800 followers now. And about a week goes by, and it runs all the way up to 1 million views and adds 20,000 followers. And all this one video.
Yeah, mental.
And all of a sudden, I have a bunch of people texting me. They're like, we have never seen someone convert so many followers from that number of views. Like, we don't know what is happening, but run with it. And so I'm like, his name's Presley. He's one of my best friends now. Like, I hang out with him all the time.
I want to meet this kid. I want to meet him.
One of my best friends in Miami now. I hang out with him all the time. And I'm like, I guess we're working together now. Like, we have to. And so probably like another week goes by. Another one goes up to 1 million views. And it adds like another 20,000 followers. And then it's just like 300,000 views, 100,000 views. Like, every video just seems is popping. And so it happened on accident to start. But then I kind of realized, like, I was able to reverse engineer it after the fact. I was like, why am I converting so many followers? And basically the answer is because you have to change someone's belief. Because basically you have to understand, like, the audience that I want to have now, or the audience that you or whoever's watching wants to have now, already exists on the platform, right? Like, you're not bringing new people to a new platform. Like, they already exist on the platform. They're there. They're scrolling, right? So if you want to convert, views to followers, you have to change a belief that they have that makes them go, oh, I actually want to see what this guy has to say after this video even. So it's like my most viral video that like 1 million people have ripped off now, which I love it because it's like boosting like the no code space. So I'm here for it. Like, people are running ads to it, everything. I'm like, Iman Ghazi shut down his agency to go all in on SaaS. Like,
I saw this
Jordan Welch is saying e-com, but he's doing SaaS, right?
Yeah.
So that's like my most viral video. It's almost at 2 million views now. And every single time, like, someone's ripped it, it goes viral every time. And basically the reason is because, one, you say Iman. Everyone knows who Iman is. Jordan, a lot of people know who Jordan is.
And you're calling out the elephant in the room. As
soon as I say, and I love Iman. Like, Iman's like, I've spoken to him multiple times. He's a really good guy, and I like him. But when I say Iman, since he's so popular now, that immediately grabs the attention of everyone who knows who Iman is, which is a lot of people. And then I say he shut down his agency to go all in on SaaS. And then that's a little bit controversial, which like sparks discussion in the comments, right? And it's not controversial in like a douchey way. It's just controversial because people might be like, that's not why he shut down his agency. He shut down his agency to do this. Or like, he's not going all in on SaaS. Just like whatever. They can think whatever they want to think, right? And so it's a little bit controversial. And then I said the same thing about Jordan. I was like, he's preaching e-com, but he's focused on his SaaS. It's just a little bit controversial. They're like, no, he still does e-com or whatever. And then I used the example of Sam Ovens as well, I think, which he shut down consulting.com to go all in on school. And so it's just like 3 different people that are all well known. And they're also kind of like different spaces. Like Sam Ovens, people more like OG online money people know from like, 2017 to like 2019. And then Iman's more recent. And so I grabbed all those demographics. And then after that, I talk about a lot of people, there's a knowledge gap. A lot of people don't even know what software is. And I actually I kept saying, it was so funny. I said, like, they're going all in on SaaS. So like most people that are watching are like, what's SaaS? And there's probably 1 million comments on that video if you go look of what is SaaS. So then I explain why they're going all in on it, of like the benefits of it. And so then I converted all those people's belief. They're like, maybe agency is not the best route. Maybe e-commerce isn't the best route. Like, let me look into this software thing. And since this guy's the first guy that I've seen talking about software, let me follow him and see what else he has to say. And so I was able to kind of reverse engineer that. And so now I'm kind of like, okay, you need to call out a demographic, and then you need to change a preconceived belief that they have. And if you can, and then it's like, you make your claim and then you back it up with your own social proof and your own evidence. And that's kind of the formula to converting someone's belief to align with yours. And then you have yourself a new follower.
Yeah, and you know how you're saying about converting it. You perhaps don't even need to convert it. You just need to challenge a belief, like challenge something that someone so strongly believes in, and they've like, holy, I need to question that because it's been called out so obvious to me, and you've brought something that's out of sight into their sight, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. So you have to follow you because you've captured that interest, but you haven't completely sold them on no code yet,
right?
But you've gone, well, Iman's told you to do this, but he's actually doing this, and because that's so obvious and it's the truth, it's like, well, I have to follow this guy now because he's just told me a truth that I didn't know 5 minutes ago.
Exactly.
And that, I think that's the beautiful thing that you've done with this brand. And like I said, the reason it's building for you is because you can talk, you can communicate this better than other people. What are some of the other strategies that you're going to implement to grow this even further?
Yeah, and so it's like I want my brand to be, I want it to be very value driven, right? It's like, again, it's like there's no lifestyle on my page. Like you see a lot, like if I scroll on Instagram for 5 minutes, most of the videos are going to be lifestyle. They're going to be some montage of a dude driving his car on a boat, clubs, whatever. And that doesn't convert followers. It might give you views, it won't give you followers. So
value converts followers is what you're saying. One thing is,
I'm going to continue. I'm going to just sit down in front of the camera like I have been, and I'm just going to continue to talk, right? The other thing that I'm going to continue to do is I'm going to continue to basically just show people some of the actual behind the scenes behind actually running a business. Because I think the biggest goal behind my content now is not to like, I of course have my own selfish like agenda of making more money. It's super obvious. Like, I would never say that's not the case. But I want people to understand, like, the reality of, like, what it is to, like, be an entrepreneur. And I want to try to change a lot of the narratives out there. Because, like I said, if you go and you scroll, or if you go scroll and you get 10 different ads, 9 out of 10 of those ads, probably 10 out of 10 of those ads, is going to be some sort of claim with a very short timeline. It's going to say, get your first client in a week. Get your first, sales job in a month. Like, get to $10,000 a month in 90 days. And so all of a sudden, there's all these people that think they can achieve any sort of significant results in 90 days or in 6 months even, in a year even. And it's because they're also seeing these in tandem with, like I said, the lifestyle content. They're seeing the cars, they're seeing the watches, they're seeing the yachts. And so there's this belief that they can achieve those sorts of things in 6 to 12 months, which couldn't be further from the truth. And so I want to change the narrative, and I really want people to look to the long term. And I also want them to even forget about all the things that they just saw, because I can tell you, as soon as you're able to afford the crazy cars and the watches and the clubs, you're probably not even going to want them. Like, that's the truth of it. Like, sure, like, maybe you're a car guy and you're like, oh my gosh, this is my lifelong dream to buy a car. Fine. But for the most part, once you're actually able to, you're not going to want to buy most of the stuff that you thought you once wanted. And so I want people to just really understand that if you're going to be an entrepreneur, if you're going to attempt to make money, that you're doing it for the right reasons, that you have a long-term mindset. And if you look back of, like, what it meant to be an entrepreneur, it's like you're solving actual problems. Like, you're providing massive value to a marketplace. Like, you're not just selling some sort of claim online. Like, all these marketing agency owners even, I know probably like 2 people that can actually get their clients results with a marketing agency. And I know a lot of marketing agency owners, right?
It's mental, that, isn't it?
So, and that's what I love about software is you can't just sell a claim. You have to actually have something built, something that actually solves a problem, something that actually adds value. And so that is what it means to actually be an entrepreneur. You're solving a problem in a marketplace. You're building a better solution for someone. You're making someone's business life better. You're saving them time. You're making them more money. You're not just saying a claim. You have to actually have built something tangible. And that's what I really like about it. And that's what I'm trying to tell my audience.
Yeah, and just to touch on one of the things that you said there, it's so important that people understand is you're saying there about once you've got the car, you realize you don't even want the car. Once you got the watch, you realize you didn't even want the watch. Because what most people don't understand, and what I realized in my pursuit of entrepreneurship, is I was in the pursuit of being able to buy it, not buying it. Does that make sense? I just wanted the money in the bank to be able to say, okay, you can go and buy these cars. Yeah. You can go and buy this watch. But I'm like, but I'm happy in a white t-shirt or a black t-shirt, a black pair of jeans and a pair of Nikes on my feet. And, I got a couple of nice watches as well, but I find out they're more investment pieces and I don't even wear them as much.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Because it's like you have a nice watch, but you can't even wear it because someone's going to try and attack you for it.
Right.
So it's like, it's pointless. You might as well just make money, invest in a few assets and that, but it's not really that's not really why you're in the game.
Right.
You're in the game because the most beautiful scoreboard in the world is money, right? Mm-hmm. And it's one of the things that you said before this podcast is you didn't want to discuss it in terms of numbers because you don't want to flex on people, which I massively respect because I know that you've sold companies, but we don't need to go into because you just want to provide value. Yeah. And you just want to provide solutions to problems and values to people on the back of it. And that's a beautiful way to be because you've realized that all that flexy wanky shit that people do online is just unvaluable.
Yeah.
And everyone is following the people that are doing it.
Yeah.
So what would your advice then to be to people to say, go for who you're following on Instagram and unfollow all the people then essentially that are just flexing lifestyle on you because that lifestyle is probably not even what you want. You kind of think you want it because you're seeing XYZ have it.
Yeah. I don't think there's any reason to follow any single person that's flexing a lifestyle. And like what I will also tell you is it is not that expensive to live the crazy lifestyle that you see online. Like you can make 30 grand a month. And I know people that make 30 grand a month and they drive a Lambo and they have the nice apartment and they have a watch. And after it's all said and done, it's basically paycheck to paycheck again at that point. So like, don't be fooled and think that because someone's living that lifestyle they're actually balling like that. You know what I mean? Like, you can afford that life, or I shouldn't say you can afford it. I mean, I guess you technically can, but like, it's not very smart, on a lot less than you actually think.
Yeah, and because I tell people all the time that you can change your life by selling the car that you own. You could book a ticket to another destination. I mean, you could sell any car that you've got in England or America right now and buy a ticket and live in Bali and look like you're absolutely killing life.
Yeah.
If you want to, Bali or Thailand or wherever, some exotic location that you can live for a few months on the money you've even just sold the car for.
Yeah.
And obviously not look like you're balling in terms of like you're in all the top clubs, but you know, just absolutely change your life.
Of course.
So it's like, I think a lot of the frameworks that are built around a person's mind into why they can't change or what's holding them back is absolute bullshit. And I think that's what you got to smash through. But some of the things that I've seen you target on your content, which has also got good traction as well, I believe, from me seeing it, is you're starting to call out what some of these entrepreneurs say to do as well. Like in terms of, you've called out monk mode. There's a few other things that I can't think of the top of my head that you've called out, but you're calling out these things and you're saying, I know people that work fucking 3 hours a day that are out working. All these people are working 16. So give me a bit of an insight into your mindset and perception on that.
Yeah, so there's some nuance here, and it's funny because people always miss nuance on social media. So of course, I don't agree with everything of monk mode. There's like, I agree with having seasons. I agree of going through a season of like more, maybe like a little bit more work, maybe a little bit like less like partying, and you're trained. Like right now I'm trained for a marathon, right? Like I would consider I'm in like a season of working a little bit more right now. Like I'm trying to be healthier, right? But the reason that I diss monk mode is it's almost like reading like one of these like self-help books where you feel like you're doing something without actually doing something. So because someone wakes up at 5 a.m. and then they take their cold shower and then they do their red light therapy and then they journal, and then it's like 9 a.m. and they're like, wow, I'm really accomplished today. It's like, what did you accomplish that actually moved the needle forward? Like, did you send like 100 outbound DMs today? Like, because if you make no money right now, right? Like, let's say you're trying to get into business, and whether you're starting a software company, an agency, whatever, the only thing that moves the needle is getting your first customer, right? So the only thing that moves the needle for you is getting in your outbound messages. Like, go pick up the phone, like start dialing, start sending cold emails, like start sending LinkedIn connection requests, start putting out content to get your first client. If you have not landed your first client yet and you're starting an agency, nothing else matters besides getting your first client and getting really good at the skill you're selling. Nothing else matters. What time you wake up doesn't matter. What you're like necessarily like writing down, journaling doesn't matter. Can that stuff help? If it makes you feel good, sure, do it. If it makes you feel good, if it makes you feel like you have an edge. But if it takes you 2 hours to get all your dials in, your content, your cold emails, you can work 2 hours a day. Like, you know what I mean?
I agree with you.
Like, all them, like I tell people, I wake up, I get my cup of coffee, and I work on the tasks that move the needle. I don't have a routine. I don't do anything else. I just wake up, I get my coffee, and I work on the tasks that move the needle.
What I've done is similar to you. I was doing the morning routine. I was doing the gym. I was doing some, whether it be boxing or lifting weights that day, and I was doing my meditation and my breath work and my 10,000 steps walk and all this stuff. And by the time you do it, it's like 11:30 in the morning,
right?
And you're like, holy fuck, I've not done anything. So what I've changed to doing, and what's revolutionized my fucking business and my life, is I go, right, I wake up, I just have a cold shower or whatever, just to wake myself up essentially, or maybe not even have a shower. I might just go straight to the desk with my water and start doing the things that actually do the sales in the business.
Right.
And I'll do that for like the first 2 or 3 hours. And then I'll go, right, now I'll book podcasts. Now I'll do this. Now, after I've had my brunch or lunch or whatever I'm going to call it. And then I start to do the things that, okay, I need to book podcast guests. I need to do this and that. But booking podcast guests at the minute, it's not making me cash.
Right.
So that shouldn't be the front end of the day.
Right.
What makes me cash is removing online content for celebrities and brands. So I'm gonna streamline that process and make sure people are doing what they're meant to be doing on that. Yeah. So it's like you're right in what you're saying. You have to kind of understand the metrics that you need to work within and what generates you the capital. And what you'll find is 80-20 principle, 20%. 20% of what you do will earn you 80% of all your money. 20% of what you do in the gym will get you all your muscle growth, everything. 80-20 works on everything. And I think that's what people need to focus on.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I will say the one routine type thing that actually does help me is, this is the only thing that I'll swear by, is the night before I go to bed, is I'll write down what those needle moving tasks are to do tomorrow.
How many of them do you make sure there are?
3.
Always 3.
3 biggest tasks, and then I write down for each one how long I'm allowed to spend on each one, how long I have until I have to complete it. Because what I found is if you don't give yourself a time period that you have to finish it in, you let it take longer than it should.
Yeah, 100%. Because you just you just drag things out, and time, whatever time you allow, the task always fills it. I remember. I'll give you a classic example. I was going to leave England on the 17th of September. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I'm here. We're in August. It's obviously happened sooner.
Yeah.
I realised that the day I booked the flight to Dubai, because I was meant to be going to Dubai, but obviously that changed. Mm-hmm. The day I booked the flight to Dubai on the 17th of December, I realised, holy fuck, you've left yourself. You're saying it's got to take that long. Why has it got to take that long?
Yeah.
And then literally within 2 weeks, I cleared out the apartment, got rid of all the stuff, and I was ready to move. Because I just knew that if I'd kept waiting and kept leaving it, I had already set myself out. I was leaving on the 17th, and I would have been massively unhappy in that period because I'd feel like I was stuck still.
Yeah.
So nothing that you do in your life right now has to take as long as what you say it's going to take, essentially. Yep. And I think that's if you can get that out of this podcast, take that and use it today, and kind of look at what your life and look at how much time you're giving yourself to do stuff, and kind of clear that out, and kind of, why does it have to take that long?
Yeah.
Why do I have to be that far away from my goal, for argument's sake? You break your daily goals, but how do you structure in terms of, like, do you have like a yearly goals, like a vision type thing, or is that woo woo to you too?
So no, I think that's important, but they're more like, and this is where it gets, when you're at a certain level in business, it becomes like you need an operator. Like you almost need like a fractional COO for this type of stuff, which I had, and it was really helpful. And it's like, but it's the metrics that matter, right? So the easiest example is like, how many, qualified leads are you bringing in? How many are turning into demos or sales calls? How many are turning into paying customers? And then how much is that customer worth? So tracking those metrics over the course of a year, and then setting targets for those, monthly and quarterly, to make sure that you're going to hit your yearly goal. Like that's the type of plan that I do. So say we wanted to get, the development agency to X amount per year, right? And right now we're doing X, and we're having so many sales calls per week, and it's from, how are we getting the calls? It's from me putting out X amount of content, just reverse engineering that whole process of, okay, we're doing all of this and we're getting however many calls per week, that's bringing in however many clients. How do we get to this number? Well, we need to get this many calls, which means we need to put out this much more content, or we need to add more creators under me, or we need to start to spend on ads, reverse engineering the process that way.
Do you prove everything out with organic content before you introduce any ads to it?
Yeah, so I haven't ran a single ad yet. Actually, that's a lie. I ran a TikTok Spark ad to book calls for my development agency. And what I did is I took my best performing organic video and I ran as a TikTok Spark ad, and it went to an instant form submission. So they'd fill out their information, and then it'd be like a 3-question form. That information would then get zapped into the CRM. I use Close, and then it would create a task for one of my sales reps to call that lead. And we were getting like $2 leads doing that.
Just off TikTok?
Just off TikTok Spark ad.
And it's a great way of doing it, because you've literally you've proven. I'm going to start doing this with my podcast content on TikTok as well, because like the content that obviously gets 3 or 4 million views.
Yeah,
that's good content to use as an ad to drive someone straight to the episode. Yeah, I think personally. Yeah, so like that's what I'm going to start doing, because like you've got all this content, you test on organic. If it gets 20,000-30,000 views, whatever's a mad number of views for your account, it's like, well, just use that, like you say, as an ad. Run it straight to a lead form. Yeah, it's like easy clients.
Yeah. Now, the other thing about doing them in tandem, right, it's like whenever someone sees you on an ad, right, or maybe you even cold emailed them, or you hit them up on LinkedIn, the first thing someone normally does if they're remotely interested is they're going to look you up. They're going to see, hey, who is this person that I just saw their ad, or that I just reached out to them, or they just reached out to me, sorry. And if you're a nobody on the internet, let's say you're running ads, but they look you up and there's basically nothing online about you, they're like, oh, I'm not going to respond to this guy. Like, I don't know who he is. But if they look you up and they see, oh, he's been on some decent podcasts. Oh, he's been putting out content on YouTube that's very valuable. His Instagram, reels are very informative. He has blog posts, and all of a sudden there's all this information online. He has client testimonials online. Now they're probably going to respond to you. Now they might book a call because they looked you up and they're like, oh, this guy's actually legit. So, doing content marketing and doing podcasts and all these things actually in tandem with running ads is actually going to make them perform better.
Yeah, because obviously the 7 times they've got to see your face before you become a recognizable figure. And if they keep seeing your face on TikTok, I get people come up to me in the street saying, I've seen you on TikTok a lot. And I'm like, I've never posted a TikTok in my life, mate. I've got someone streamlining that. There's just content, 3 pieces going out all the time, every day, firing out 3 to 5 pieces. But I just thought to myself, that's mental, isn't it? That it's a platform I open it once a week to check how we're doing.
Yeah.
Like I don't even log in. I don't watch any TikTok content, but it's just mental how just by putting yourself in the face, you touch in different audiences and different age demographics on different platforms and stuff,
Yeah.
What are the kind of platforms you're focused on? Just TikTok, just Instagram at the moment, and then YouTube?
Yeah, so those are the big 3, and then my newsletter. I do want to grow my newsletter, and it's because I love to write. Like people are always like, why don't you outsource it? Like get a ghostwriter or a copywriter. I just love to write. So I love to have my newsletter just because I love to write to people. And I feel like it's a little bit more of like an intimate way for like my audience to hear just like my like very direct, like raw thoughts on any given day. And I don't even make it necessarily always, I'm sure they join for like software related content, but every once in a while I'm like, I just feel like writing what's on my mind. I will. So yeah, but that's what I got.
I think the newsletter is something I want to launch because I think a newsletter lets you have a close, intimate relationship with the audience and writing is such a skill because when I studied Hormozy and I've known him more than most people because obviously he's been a client of mine in the past, but he puts writing at the first and foremost, and everything starts with his tweeted ideas, and he expands all those tweeted ideas into all of his content. He's just a genius way of doing it. I think writing first is the best way to start a brand, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, not even just to start a brand, but copywriting is one of the most important skills. Like if we, I watched his live event for the book launch the other day, and that whole presentation was just a copy masterclass, right? It was like, I was hoping he was going to charge for it. You know what I mean?
But here's the thing, right? I saw there's a little bit of a nuance with that. Obviously, Alex Heiden launches this book, guys. He sells it. He does all these upsells on it, and then he ends up just giving away a free hat if you buy 3 books. Yeah, that's kind of the long story short with that. And I'm sure if you watch the piece of content back, you'll understand what me and Alex are talking about.
Yeah. But
what a lot of people don't get clear, Alex Heiden, before he even started an online brand, when I first met Alex Heiden had just exited a company for like 45 million. So he already had 45 million cold hard cash in the bank before he started. So he doesn't have to charge people at XYZ level under 3 million a year business. He doesn't need them people as customers.
Yeah.
He only wants people that have got $3 million brands that he can take into under acquisition.com. But he's worked 10 years to get to that point.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are like, well, I'll just give all my shit away for free now. I'm like, you don't understand. Like you've not earned the right to give everything away for free, because if you give everything away for free, you're going to go broke because you've not got the long time horizon that he's allowed himself to have.
Yeah.
I think that's where people get missed with Hormozy, don't they?
Yeah.
What are some of the books and some of the insights, the ways that you collect media and collect knowledge?
Yeah. So I read a lot of books in the past, a lot of the very like stereotypical ones like Think and Grow Rich and Cashvertising and Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, which is actually a pretty good sales book. But I will still say those books were very good for getting me a little bit motivated in the beginning, helping me get into this space, like, maybe learning very fundamentals. Nothing has taught me more than starting and running a business, though. Like just nothing has. And learning from people like Luca, as he was my business partner, like we were working on a business together, and he was like, hey, here's what you should do, like, because he has done it a million times. But yeah, nothing has taught me more really about like even like marketing than like since I started marketing myself online with my brand. Like I'm learning what type of content works, why it works. So yeah, nothing's taught me more than actually running my own business and doing the thing. And that's what Hormozy talks about too. Is
doing
like,
the thing, yeah.
It's the same. I get the same question that he said he gets of like, how do you come up with content for every single day? Like you post 2 times a day for like almost probably 6 months now. Like how do you keep getting ideas? And I'm like, I do the thing every single day. And so yeah, nothing's taught me more than just continuing to run my own businesses. And I will say the other thing is starting to play in bigger leagues. So what I will say is, and Alex Becker said this, is your first 2 businesses you probably shouldn't try to have for very long, because 1, it's just to learn, 2, it's to make a little bit of cash, and 3, they're not going to have that big of potential. Your first few businesses are not going to have probably 10 to 50 to $100 million exit potential. Like you're just not at that level of an entrepreneur yet, and that's fine. But so now I'm getting to a point where I'm getting ready to swing for the fences. Like I'm getting ready to the point where I'm not playing the game of business because making more money necessarily makes my life better now, but because I now have the ability to swing for the fences and go for a much larger exit, because I don't need to pay myself more money now. It won't have an impact on my life. And so now I'm learning, like, what does it look like to build a business at that caliber? Like, what does the cap table look like at that level? Like, I'm starting to learn a little bit about like raising money. Like I'm starting to learn a lot about a lot of different things from actually doing the things.
It's interesting you say that, because I was speaking to a mentor of mine literally like 5 days ago, and he was basically saying, look, Frankie, you're getting to the point in life where you've got to start looking at building things that don't do anything less than 10, 12 million a year. Otherwise you're fucking around in the wrong thing. And if the vehicle that you're in, if the pivots that you make, and we've suggested a few pivots, can't go and generate that with this model, sell that one and start this one. Because and I'm starting to look at these things now, because I'm like, okay, certain people have got the ability to make 12 million a year, but are in the wrong fucking boat. And if you're in the wrong boat, or you've got the wrong model, you'll never ever squeeze the juice out of the wrong model. And that's kind of what I've learned, and what I'm learning from these high level movers in this space. But I just want to thank you for your time today, and obviously dropping your wisdom on here, mate. And I'm really pleased that you've made no code to me sound way more interesting than I'd ever hoped to hear it made. So I hope a lot of you guys resonate with it. But I just want to ask you one question before we leave. It's a question I ask everybody. If there's one piece of golden wisdom that you can drop on this audience today that will move them all forward 1% from this moment, and you can't leave anything else in you if you were checking out the world, what would it be?
I would just say lengthen your time horizon, like build for the long haul, put one foot in front of the other every single day. And if you give yourself a long enough time horizon, it's literally impossible to lose, right? So that's the best advice that I can give, is lengthen your time horizon, one foot in front of the other, and just never stop.
I love that, mate. And Alex, mate, aka No Code Alex, I'll put all your links below this, mate, so they can check you out. And guys, I'd just like to encourage you to start exploring this space. I think it's a space that can add a lot of value to your existing brand. I think it's a space where you can lengthen and add more value to the customers you already have. And I think it's something that is going to massively grow. And you can start by implementing this into your current brand, and then build something off on the side that solves a problem. And you can even solve a problem within your own current brand and then sell that to your market as well. If your business is unsaleable, you could just create the solution on the back end. There's so much scope with no code brands, and Alex has laid out the plan for you. Do me a favor, subscribe on all the platforms, like and share it. It just helps so much when you share this podcast with, just share it with 2, 3, 4 other people. If we've added value to your life, I'd appreciate it on every level. And much love.
Guys, do me a solid favor, drop a comment below this video and let us know who you want on the podcast next.